So this is from the Ferling 48 studies. This is number 22, and this is marked at quarter note equals 1/16. So I would suggest first that we look at the key signature, which is the key of A major, and there are a number of accidentals in addition to the A major. So F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp, but there are also some D sharps. There is also an F double sharp. So I would suggest playing this through quite slowly. I'll give you an example. And just essentially learn your notes. So play it through around that tempo. So number one, get the correct notes. Number two, make sure your articulations are pretty clear. So every time it has a tied note and then followed by an articulated note, like for instance in the first bar on beats 2 and 3, what I'm trying to do is end the tie with a short note. So I'll make it really exaggerated from beat 2 of bar 1. Like that. Let's go ahead and talk about articulation briefly. So when I tongue on the saxophone, I use the tip of my tongue just under the tip of the reed, and I have a steady airflow, and I try to say the sound of as opposed to with one steady breath, as opposed to like that, where I'm rebreathing for every articulated note. So at a fast tempo, if our tongue is very, very light, if this is my, say the reed here, and this is my tongue touching on right under the tip of the reed, I'm very, very lightly touching the reed. I don't need a lot of pressure from the muscle of the tongue. So an example can be if I were to press it very hard, it would sound like this. And we don't need that kind of pressure. A lot of these passages are scales or arpeggios. So again, look at the notes as they're written and make sure you play them correctly. Like I said earlier, the double sharp in the F double sharp is like a G natural. We have the large leaps, and the way I would suggest approaching the large leaps is like this. So let me give you some examples. First, get the first two notes. So notice that each of those passages, this one, is a scale going up with the upper part staying the same. And then 2 bars later from that, the third bar after that, so what I would suggest is take the first 2 notes and just practice putting a good amount of air, number 1, and number 2, make the first note short. So and I wouldn't worry about playing it fast yet. Just get the first note nice and full and short, and the second note, make sure there's enough air to make it speak. If the upper note is not coming out, you possibly could be biting too much. So make sure that you do a good warm-up. For instance, if you play the first low E, I like to just play it long enough to find a good focus and center to my sound. If I have a little bit of a memory of that before I start playing my articulated notes, kind of a volume and a character and color of my sound. So again, step number one of this passage is to play the first two notes and just work those through slowly. We'll add the others after. Work that until you can get them faster. Now, the second part is go back to your slow tempo again, and remember that repeated part, let's put that in there, and we're basically going to be playing notes of 5 notes, or groups rather, of 5 notes. So, now if you can't get the 5th note, the next low note, stop. Just play the first 4 notes. Stop, take a break, start the next group. And make sure, as best as you can, to play that first note of each group short. So, first step is to get the first 2 notes, da 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 da. The second step is to try to get the first group of 4 notes into the downbeat. If that doesn't work, just get the first 4 notes. And work these first 2 bars. It's actually 2 bars of one scale, and then it goes to 2 bars of another scale. So work them over and over nice and slowly. I think the biggest key, if I were to say it in one word, is air. Make sure you're putting enough air through this. I would not worry about the piano dynamic yet. You have the first one is marked piano, the second one is marked forte. I think it's more important to actually get the notes to speak than to make the priority of a dynamic. Because if you're trying to play it too soft and the notes don't speak, then the phrase doesn't come across. You have a fermata rest before the end, and I would utilize that. So you can count 4 beats there if you'd like, or just take a pause and just regroup yourself. I suggest, as a method of practicing, to work at the end backwards. So say start at the last 2 or 3 bars, get those really comfortable. Now, actually, there's things to talk about in that. We're trying to shape and make the phrases and make them sound like they have a direction. So if I were to just be very metronomic about it. But if I put a little bit of a crescendo when I'm playing my scale and leading to the next bar, and if I put up the tempo a little bit faster, like that, then it sounds like the A is a big arrival point. And that's what we're trying to do throughout this piece, is make, in addition to playing the technique part, that getting the notes correct, getting the rhythms correct, getting the large leap notes to speak, we want it to sound like a piece of music. So I would say, in addition to what the dynamics are marked in the music, to put in a little bit of your own character to it, so that each group, each bar, feels like it has a direction. I didn't talk about vibrato, and there's not a lot of opportunity in this, but there are some quarter notes, and so I play vibrato on the saxophone. I can kind of define it in a little bit of a easy way. I just say wah wah, but with my lower lip only, as if, and with no vocal cords. So if I just blow my air and say wah 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 wah. Make sure that your air is really pushing through. Let's just say give you a quick word about tempo. Only play it at the tempo that you feel comfortable executing everything. So if you play the whole first 2 lines or so fantastically at 116 and all of a sudden have to play the large leaps at 108, then don't play the whole piece at 116. Play the whole piece at 108. Or in other words, don't play the whole piece in 2 tempos. Choose one tempo that you feel you can be the most musical at and execute it well. Let me reiterate, I'm going kind of quickly, the point I just made earlier, working from the end, because often we play the beginning many times than we do the end, and we get to the end and we lose a little bit of our focus and concentration, and then we might make a little mistake. So really practice the end part a lot. Okay, thank you very much, and I wish you all the best.